Stand-up's so different because you're getting like an instant reaction. In the first 30 seconds, like if people haven't laughed, then it's really scary to put yourself out there like that, and you're on your own on stage and you've seen so many people do it wrong before.
Ladies and gentlemen, we've got two acts on in this section. The first one's called Amy Vreeke. Are you ready for Amy Vreeke? Give me a ooh! Yeah! Yeah! So we're going to welcome into the stage the man to which we have become accustomed on the count of three. Let's all start stamping our feet. 1, 2, 3, go! Feel it building up, let's go! Come on!
I'm Amy Vreeke. I am a comedian, actress, performer, theatre maker, but by day I input data. I've always been the funny one, especially in groups of girls. There was like the pretty one, you know, and I was always the funny one. The first time I tried stand-up was probably the first time I realised I was funny enough to have it as a job. But I guess I've always been a bit of a clown, so to speak. I was doing a contemporary theatre course at uni, and there was a comedy society. I was more interested in writing sketches and like comedy acting at that point. But then I got persuaded to give it a go. I never was interested in it for me until I did it, and then yeah, I just thought, oh okay, this is what I should be doing. You having a drink tonight, yeah? Woo! Well, I've actually recently tried to give up. I have. I had loads of motivation, got to about tea time on day one, and I thought, who needs alcohol when you've got tea and biscuits? Me. So I tell you what, can't get away with unnecessary aggression on tea and biscuits, can you? Oh, Amy, you were such a bitch last night. Oh, sorry, it was the green tea. No offense. Yeah, sorry I fucked your boyfriend. I ate 9 hobnobs. It was really exciting in the beginning, I think, because it was like discovering a whole new scene and meeting loads of new friends and stuff. So I think I was really excited by every gig I did. So even if I like got on stage and 3 people left, I was like, oh my god, I'm a star. Just getting as many gigs as I could was my first step, because I thought I need to get better. The only way I think you really improve with stand-up is by performing it over and over, you know, like to different audiences and different places. But then it can be hard to like switch off from it, or it's kind of like there's a lot of pressure to have like a certain amount of gigs every week and to have done that one and have been here, and sometimes that's quite a lot of pressure and quite difficult. I'm the only person that puts that pressure on myself, obviously. If you're working every day and then gigging every night and then not actually experiencing life, that's where your material comes from. I do a lot of it about me, and more recently I've done it about, I've been like ill a lot. I had a thing called endometriosis, a disease. It was actually my friend gave me some advice, because I used to do a lot of material about being like, yeah, I'm a slut, yeah, I drink so much. And she was like, that's great, but you know, there's a lot of drunk sluts about. So like being my friend, she was like, I know there's a lot more of an interesting side to you.
I'm Luciano Nardo. I'm the clinical director of this clinic, providing care for women that come with fertility problem, with pelvic pain problem, and with a variety of gynecological issues. Endometriosis is the development of the lining of the womb, called endometrium, outside the womb. Endometriosis has been found in the pelvis, so outside the uterus, close to the ovaries, close to the fallopian tubes, on the surface of the bowel, and sometimes as distant as the nose, mouth, and ears. The commonest symptoms associated with endometriosis are pelvic pain, painful intercourse, pain during periods, and sometimes subfertility. The symptoms affect the quality of life, the daily life, the relationship, the work life, and have significant impact on the society as well. The only way to stop endometriosis is making the woman menopausal. So it is not possible in most cases when women start complaining of symptoms in the late 20s, early 30s, and they haven't even started a family.
I think from the age of 12 to 22 I was probably undiagnosed. I had loads of different symptoms which I didn't all put together to be one thing, and neither did the doctors obviously. Bowel problems, stomach ache, numerous doctor's appointments, hospital appointments. I used to feel really ill, anxious, like really low moods and stuff during my period. So that was like one set of symptoms that was quite often shunned as just, you're just on your period, get over it. Even when I was like being sick because the pain was so bad and stuff like that. The other symptoms I had were like really painful sexual intercourse. Went to the doctors about that when I first had my first like proper boyfriend, because sex was new to me then. It was when I was 16. They just said, oh, I probably got an STI, and told me to go to the clinic. So I was obviously like mortified, and I thought maybe this is how all girls feel, like maybe this is just like people just pretend that they like sex, because I just found it painful. Eventually I read a book, or the Lena Dunham book, where she explains how she feels when she's like on a period and things, and when she's having sex and all that kind of stuff, and I was like, that's exactly how I feel. And I kind of just went to the doctors and said, I've got endometriosis, and they were like, let's just check that. So I got referred to hospital, and then the only way you can be properly diagnosed is if you have a laparoscopy. With that operation they basically remove all of the cells that are in the wrong place, and they like recoated, full refurb up there, recoated my cervix as well, and then they were like, you're cured, see ya. Which wasn't true. Some people have like 4 of those surgeries, and it can be reoccurring, and loads of like side effects and stuff like that, which no one told me. I found like online support groups and stuff like that, which has been really helpful, just trying to manage it through like lifestyle and diet and stuff, and it's working so far.
I did have a few problems down in the vaginal region, so I've had a few people look up there, and then the doctors had a look. Yes, they did. Sat me down after my first appointment and said, Amy, it's a very harsh environment up there. Sounds like something off Bear Grylls, doesn't it, that? I'm Bear Grylls. Today I'm inside Amy's vagina. Only the bravest men have been up here before. Bring your wellies, because it can get down.
I think I grew, and my material needed to grow with me, and I was obviously having this experience, this quite personal, difficult experience with that, and it felt like I was lying if I went on stage and was just like, all I ever do is get drunk and shag people. The main thing is that it's vagina based, which means a lot of my material now is vagina based, which I don't mind, but other people seem to. So I think that's probably been the hardest part of it, is like, oh, you're just talking about your fanny again. I'm like, yeah, because it's quite a big part of my life, so yeah.
Hello, you're right.
Yeah,
Yes.
come in.
I'm really bloody parking here, you're out.
Sam, introduce yourself.
Hello, I'm Sam.
We've been friends for about 5 years. We started doing the Comedy Society together, and then we've been best buds ever since, haven't we?
Yeah, we ended up taking a show to Edinburgh, going on BBC Radio Lancashire. We did different like festivals and things like that.
Something I've learned along the way is making sure you deal with issues before you discuss them on stage. Make sure you've kind of taken them in, dealt with them, and then worked out how to make them funny. There's been a few times when I've not been ready to talk, but I have anyway, and it's been horrible, like for the audience and for me. For comedy to work, you have to kind of say things that other people aren't saying. But people can be offended by anything, you don't know. And, you know, as long as you're sensitive and aware, like you say, to the other issues people are facing. But people have been offended by me talking about my own vagina.
Yeah, exactly.
Tough. Like,
Yeah.
do you know what I mean? Like, it's not your right to tell me not to do that because you don't like it. It's mine. I have a vagina.
When we were making theatre and we were making theatre about certain issues and current issues, and that influenced our stand-up, then we became more socially aware, and especially Amy, like her work then started to be more to do with her as a woman in comedy, something that she was never aware of before she became a woman in comedy. Like she didn't think that was a thing.
Yeah, like that's different from being a man in comedy.
And it's often like the old the old men that are in comedy that like make that a thing, and so they're the ones who are also conveniently offended when Amy talks about her vagina.
One time I got reviewed as it was unelegant, and I was like, well, yeah, I've never tried to be elegant when I write comedy. Like, that's not what that is for. That comedy was just the most elegant comedy I've ever seen. No, it's ridiculous. I'm hoping to develop my solo show, which is based on the endometriosis. I'm looking for funding so that I can develop the show, maybe get a creative team together to help me. The next step would be to tour it, and also I'd like to do workshops alongside it as well. To raise awareness and like make people feel more comfortable about talking about it. So it would be more about like having fun and like giving people that space to feel comfortable.
I think it's a very good way to raise awareness. Young women should not feel embarrassed to go to see a doctor. Best way for young women to express that kind of symptoms and feel free to discuss with friends, families and professionals is knowing that other people that perhaps have made an impact to their life have done exactly the same.
Now you know that there's other people who've gone through the same thing as you. You want to then like help them, and that I think then takes the edge off it being difficult. It's just extra motivation for you to write and make it.
Considering it affects 1 in 10 women, I think it's crazy how much people aren't aware of it. I wasn't diagnosed for 7 years, and it's because I was quite embarrassed about a lot of the symptoms that I was having. And I think if I can help somehow people not to feel that and to, you know, go to the doctors more and demand a bit more care, then that's a good thing. So I don't really mind if it makes like one man feel a bit uncomfortable.
I hate going to the doctors. They're very judgmental, aren't they? Every time I go in, they're like, do you maybe want to think about the amount of men you're sleeping with? Take up a bit more regular exercise and cut down on your alcohol intake. I swear last time I went in, she just went, still a fat alcoholic slut? Okay, here's your prescription. And I thought, my God, finally somebody accepts me for who I am. Another thing they do when you go to the doctors, will you just hop on the scales? No. No, I don't weigh myself. I've got a rule, right? The only way I can tell if I've lost weight is that I don't have to lift my belly up to shave my fanny anymore. Foolproof, honestly.